and if anybody had seen X-Men, like we said, that do 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 do. I would have loved for just like, you know what badass? Yeah.
We watched a movie. Yeah. We watched a movie. We watched it. We watched a movie. Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to We Watch the Movie. I'm Jay, this is Mike, and as you can see, it's X-Men days. Not a future past. It's not going to happen yet. It's not going to happen yet.
Excuse me, Susan.
Slurp it down.
No, my dick hurts.
Yeah, so X-Men, directed by Bryan Singer, starring Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, James Marsden, Hugh Jackman, Anna Paquin. It just keeps going. It's like the Brady Bunch of awesome.
The world.
The world's in it.
The world. The reason we're doing this, obviously, is for Wolverine coming out July 26th. You can buy your tickets online at www.fuck.com. But
are you going to get those tickets for that show? Or something else? Arabian.
We thought it had like an origin story for Wolverine in it, but it doesn't. Because they go back in Origins, and I guess we should have done that one first.
Yeah, I want to say that for last. That's like the last little nugget of turd. And
yeah.
You just don't want to think about it right now. That's like for you to Sancho Deluxe, and you're like, it's coming. It's gonna come. It's gonna be in the toilet, but I just don't want to face that right now. So I'm gonna clench my butt cheeks together and hold it out.
Dude, we are leading the world in poop analogies.
I've got plenty of them.
Poop analogies.
Analogies. Good job.
Anal.
Get a dictionary.
Anyways.
Anals. So it was like 13 years ago, so I mean, you gotta take that into effect. I mean, that's fucking crazy. 13 years ago, that's ridiculous.
I know.
So you got like Avengers and stuff like that now, so just let's judge it based on the time frame. It's good.
Oh, when you heard about X-Men though, you're like,
no, X-Men,
it's just like the Avengers. How the fuck are they gonna do that?
It just jumped off the fucking comic page. You're like, god damn.
And Bryan Singer, I mean, this is the only thing he's done that I'm really in love with. Like, I didn't like Superman Returns at all, but this movie just, it's weird for me because X-Men was my favorite comic book growing up. Batman's my favorite superhero, but X-Men's my favorite comic. But this, like, they captured some of it. They captured some of it well, and it was the best. It's one of the best cast of movies of all time.
Yeah, it's a great cast. But to me, it's like the whole thing.
But they missed a lot too.
Yeah, it's like they had the opportunity to do awesome shit with it.
Yeah.
And there was just so many characters that they could have explored and done things with, and the interactions that they had with everybody.
There's enough characters and stories in the X-Men comic books to make its own like entire fucking comic book base off of, like its own Marvel or DC. I mean, there's just constant epic shit that you can do with this. There's Onslaught. There's all the shit.
The Onslaught would be amazing, but if you do an Onslaught, you gotta have all the Marvel.
Yeah, and then you got the very beginnings with the first X-Men, and I know that they did X-Men First Class, but just with this core group here, like the main people, like the '90s X-Men comic books that most of us around our age group know and love the
cartoon,
most.
yeah.
That was my shit right there. So I'm very picky when I watch this movie and when I watched it the first time, and that's why it's like, it should be my favorite comic book movie, but some of the stuff actually gets to me. Some of the stuff they miss actually gets to me.
Well, what I hate the most is like they had the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and they was smart of them not to call them the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants because it makes no sense. So they just call them the Brotherhood, which makes sense. And like I said, Magneto is like a militant, Professor Xavier. He's everything Professor Xavier is, but he's militant. He thinks mutant kind is like the pinnacle of evolution, and that's what he wants He wants them to be the masters and the human race to be the slaves.
Yeah.
But they show that, and they did that. They concentrated on that. And they showed like how he's like that, how he's opposite of Xavier. But what they didn't do was the Brotherhood was just there, like the like Toad and Sabretooth and all that stuff. It's like. I want more from them.
They had no backstory.
Yeah, and Sabretooth would just say stupid shit like, you owe me a scream.
Let's talk about Sabretooth real quick.
Yeah, what happened to him?
What the hell? Like, I think it's cool as hell that they used Tyler Mane, who played Michael Myers in the Halloween movie.
He's just a body, though.
Yeah, and I mean, it's cool that that's him, but at the same time, and like he didn't do a bad job, but just the way they made Sabretooth, he looked terrible, man.
What happened to him? It's like if you watch Origins where it's like Liv Schreiber is playing him, and then,
that had its corny moments.
Yeah, but he looked normal. He looked like a Sabretooth, like the Sabretooth would actually, if you pictured him in real life, what he would look like. And then he's just like, at the end of Wolverine, he jumps off the fucking tower, and then he goes away and he gets back and he's ugly. He's like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
He looked like a mountain man. He looked like, I hunt grizzly bears.
Yeah, well, he was like, and I know he's half animal. In the comic books, he's got that big furry white shit around him. Like
I always thought that was like part of his body.
It's like, when did you get an X suit? Like, how did you get the same colors as Wolverine? But he's got all the shit, and I know that he is part animal. So I mean, I get that. I get why they did it that way. But they didn't go right on either. He didn't act good as a humanistic character like he kind of is.
Yeah.
And like the wild rabbit side of him, they didn't pull off well either. I just thought Sabretooth sucked.
Yeah, and Sabretooth wasn't good. And they also showed a scene where he grabs Wolverine's. In the comic books, Wolverine and Sabretooth know each other, and they actually expounded on that in Origins, Wolverine Origins. But in this movie, it's like if you didn't even just watch the comic or the movie or TV show, I can't say it. If you'd watched the TV show, you know that Wolverine and Sabretooth had a history together. They knew each other from a previous time. And then they show Sabretooth grabbing the dog tags off Wolverine's body near the beginning of the movie and then running away with it. But Wolverine and they never talk about it. He's just like, I want these. And it's like, what the fuck is
Which is,
going on?
you can tell Bryan Singer was like, I just don't have enough fucking Tom. I don't have enough fucking Tom. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I can't get all the shit that needs to be in here done. I think he might have tried to do a little bit too much, but it's still a good movie. He still did a great job with it. And I do love the fact that the first time that Wolverine and Sabretooth meet, it's in the snow. Because you remember the epic battles that they used to have in the comic books, like in the snow? Like that was one of my favorite like TV shows, episodes, and comic books of all time. Is
Deadly Reunion.
Yeah, that's what it was. I enjoyed the kind of throwback that they did there. And like I said, they cast this movie perfectly. Professor X is like Robert Downey Jr. to Iron Man. Like, he's fucking Professor.
There was no way
Patrick
nobody.
Stewart.
Yeah, he's fucking Captain Picard. He's like, engage.
And he's hilarious. He's always so calm. He's got that Professor X shit down to a dot. I think Professor X in the comic books was a little bit angrier, maybe, but Patrick Stewart's still like,
well, I mean,
why the fuck?
Well, you know, when that movie was cast, I think that everybody's mindset, they were like, we gotta have Patrick Stewart. I mean, because Star Trek: The Next Generation, he's bald, and he's got like that whole like sophistication, like that Shakespearean kind of quality to him.
Never before has there been and I think in everybody's minds, as soon as X-Men was announced, I think every person in the United States of America was immediately like, Patrick Stewart.
I'm glad that you went in and said United States of America.
Did you not see him as?
Yes, sir.
Did you not see him as Professor Xavier before X-Men
I know.
came out though?
Every time I watched Star Trek: The Next Generation, I was like, that's goddamn.
Because he sat in the chair and everything.
I was like, what do you feel about Worf? I mean, he's this Klingon. You're like fucking all about it. You're like, that's all right. Anyway, so yeah, top to bottom, everybody was really good.
Yeah.
Everybody was cast well. The only one that I'm kind of iffy on was Halle Berry as Storm, because it just seemed like she was, and Halle Berry in this movie, to me, I mean, she's a good actress. She's got her moments, but it's just like some of her lines were so fucking cringeworthy. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, once she's like, do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything. It's like, what? They fucking die? It's like no shit, Steve.
Yeah, the huge boner that these
You have a boner?
right now.
Oh.
Thanks for noticing. The huge boner that these X-Men movies have for Storm. I know she's a central character, but we'll get into X-Men 3 later. But I don't know. I don't care about Storm.
Now, who didn't get a lot of attention? Now, obviously, Hugh Jackman was the main guy. This movie really could have. I mean, her and Paquin. Him and Paquin. You could have called this movie X-Men Rogue. I mean, it was just all about Rogue. I get that. I understand they had to have a centralized story around, a young girl, and that makes sense because this extraordinary world exists, and they got to have something to get you in that.
Yeah.
But I don't think who gets a lot of credit, and he was really good, was James Marsden as Cyclops. I think he embodied that fucking
Because
character.
there wasn't enough time for him.
Yeah.
In the final fight, like, he doesn't even really do anything. All he does is shoot that shit off of Jean Grey's face. And Famke Jensen is perfect. She's Jean Grey. She's perfect. But I'm pissed off. The only casting I don't like in the movie is Rogue. I like Anna Paquin. I think she's hot as shit, like in that sexy, trashy kind of hot way from True Blood. But that's neither here nor there. But in this movie, in the comic books, and correct me if I'm wrong, like we are not like comic book like perfectionists. We don't know everything. But in the comic books that I remember, Rogue was like all sexual and like robust,
Big booties,
and like
boobies,
and just like, even though she was younger and like she was kind of like Wolverine was kind of like her mentor or whatever it was. It's still kind of. She still had that like sexual like nature to her, because she was always hitting up with Gambit, right?
Yeah, and that's another one. Where the fuck was Gambit?
Yeah, he's like one of the best ones, and we'll get to Origins later, but I don't like what they did with him either. But I never liked what they chose to go with. Like, I would have rather had. And they focus on that bitch too, Mystique,
yeah.
constantly.
She was, Rebecca Romijn, Stamos was, she got dumped. But Rebecca Romijn was really good in this. I just don't like the fact that they made her scaly and shit, because in the comic book she wasn't scaly. I don't know why they focused so much on her and the relationship that she had with Magneto. I guess because Magneto was like her father figure, so that, I don't know. I just
And they
didn't
focus
like that.
way too much on Rogue's love life too. Like I said, they do a lot of shit right in this movie. They do a fucking lot right. But I don't like where they spend most of their time. I always want to say, there's so much cool shit you could be doing with X-Men. Why are we taking? If we're gonna cut shit out, let's cut out Rogue's romance.
I would have cut out Rogue. I'd have replaced her with fucking like Colossus or like a Gambit or somebody like that and put him in there.
It'd be a completely different movie.
That's fine.
Because then you got to think the whole central storyline follows.
Then I would have taken that's fine. I get that. Like, they had, like I'm saying, they had to bring the audience in, like people that don't read comic books or even watch the TV show. They had to bring you into this extraordinary world that's everything's going on. So you had to have a human story. I get that. But the thing that I think they missed a little bit because they focused so much on Paquin and Wolverine's or Hugh Jackman's relationship and how that tied in, that they missed the idea of what the actual central idea of X-Men is all of them and how they interact. It's like a big family and how they interact. It's not like the Avengers, because the Avengers are basically like, let's go do a job, let's fucking do it. Yeah. And it's like, but they live together. They like actually roommates and shit. And they have problems like the real world and X-Men. It's like, it makes sense. I do like what they did with Cerebro.
Cerebro.
That was the best thing they could have done with that. But one other actor I want to talk about briefly is Ian McKellen, again Magneto. I mean, this was before The Hobbit or whatever, but I get that. But he was so he perfectly got that whole. He captured the essence of Magneto because he's so righteous and he's so like about himself. And just like that one scene, you know, Wolverine was like, "Because you're so full of shit." He goes, "If you're really so self-righteous, you'd be the one up in that machine." He goes. Like just his looks, the way he was like even showing his facial, like you know, he would change his face to show, "Fuck you, how dare you judge me?" Like it made sense. Like I don't know. And another thing I will say, special effects were really good for the time.
The costumes is another thing. I don't know. I can't say that because I don't know how they would do it. But I still want to somehow see a realistic live-action depiction of their regular outfits from the cartoon.
They even made fun of it though. Because he was like, "Would you prefer yellow spandex?"
I would.
But I don't like
if
that.
They can make it work.
Well, they did kind of in X-Men First Class. They did.
Yeah,
they had bright colors and it worked. The thing is I don't mind that the black leather thing because it was the rave and craze of the early 2000s because everybody was doing it. But that Matrixy shit's got to go now.
Yeah,
like not everybody can go into the Matrix and clothes like cloaks and shit. Like I'm kind of over that now.
Yeah, Cyclops just looked like he shops at doll hairs.
He looks like a doll hair's model. Yeah. So that I didn't like that. And another thing, I thought it was kind of despairing at the beginning. At the beginning of the movie, which is a great friggin' scene where they show the Germans. You know, Magneto's like, they take his parents away and then he goes into this magnetic rage.
But they lost it. They
but it starts like this is this kind of movie, and then it goes this weird, and then it kind of gets more Michael Bolton-ish.
Yeah.
And it just, but I would have rather them stuck with that serious tone and then use that.
Well, yeah, that's what it kind of was. It was kind of like here we're introducing you to all these guys, and I get it. That's a hard task. Yeah. And that's why it's still a really great movie. It sounds like we're picking it apart. We're not. We both enjoy this movie a lot, but it's just I think it's almost you can't say it's impossible because they did do the Avengers.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Avengers each had their own movie.
Well, in my personal opinion, if this movie had failed, there would be a totally different landscape for the Marvel movies now because this is the first time they had a great big group of action characters or comic book characters on screen together, and they had to make it work. And if they didn't make it work, you could argue and say Spider-Man, but Spider-Man came out 2 years later. I'm not saying they wouldn't have made a Spider-Man movie, but still, this is the granddaddy. And if anybody had seen X-Men, like we said, that do 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 do. I would have loved for just like, you know what badass? Yeah. So overall, the movie is a solid telling of the X-Men. It could have been better, yeah, but I mean, for what they had and what they had to work with.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I have my own personal loves. I want to see more of this, more of that, and I'm glad that they focus so much on Wolverine because I like him a lot. But and Hugh Jackman works as Wolverine. Like he's a great fucking Wolverine. He is Wolverine.
Oh yeah, the only one, Russell Crowe was the only one with that, and he gave that to Hugh Jackman. He's like, I don't want to do it. He's like,
they didn't pay him enough.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sure that Russell Crowe is like, I'm father to a budded son, husband to a budded wife.
So yeah, but I want to see him focus on other stuff. But I love the casting for the most part, with the exception of Rogue.
But what would you do? Things. If you were in that situation,
that's the thing,
if you were a director, you'd be like, holy fuck, what am I going to do? I'd be like, we got Magneto here.
Bishop, get Bishop. I want Colossus. I want so-and-so. No, not you.
You start throwing out he's like, I want Cable. Like, you look into that viewfinder and you're just trying to, even in the scripting room when you're with all your writers, you're like, all right, what are we going to talk about? It's like, I don't fucking know. It's like, I don't know.
The final battle inside of
the Statue of Liberty.
This was it Ghostbusters 2? I don't know.
No, they actually walked the Statue of Liberty, so.
No, I know. But
what up?
But I just don't. That was kind of a cheesy last fight.
Yeah, but that whole scene, I just love the whole line Magneto delivered. He was like, Storm, fry. He's like, oh yes, a bolt of the lightning in a huge giant copper conductor. I thought you went to a school. Somebody did make a point. I did read somewhere. It's like, if Jean Grey, her telekinesis, why didn't she just fucking break shit apart? But she was still learning.
She's always been like.
But she was still learning. I mean, there was one sexual innuendo in the movie when Hugh Jackman and her are talking.
Yeah.
And she was like, I can move things with my mind. He's like, what kind of things? And she shuts the doors like all kinds of things. He's like, can you move my dick?
I think they got the whole Hugh Jackman, Cyclops, Jean Grey love triangle. Yeah. I think they got that good. I like the way.
I just think that Jean Grey was a slut. I was like, you're with somebody. Why you want that?
She saw him with his shirt off. She was already in trance.
It was just Harry Wolverine.
Yeah, but he's the complete opposite of Cyclops.
Yeah,
so Cyclops bores her, and Wolverine's like, I'll throw you over my shoulder and take you out in the woods. 8.0 for me.
8.0.
I just slapped that down, didn't I? It's like 15,000 ways that this movie could have been pure shiitake mushrooms. So even though it's not perfect,
it sounds like an Asian dish.
It's not my version of X-Men that I want to see. specifically, I still enjoy it. They did a good job, and
Yeah.
it's a fun movie.
8.0, I think it's a great cast. Everything was, as far as casting, perfect. Music was okay. It wasn't like over the top heroic, like you get the Avengers and you're like, yeah, it's not like that, but it was still good. Special effects were done really well, and the story was still, it was tightly told. It just, I wish they could have done a little bit more with it, but again, you got to keep into effect they had a budget and they had time constraints. So, but you're right, they could have fucked this movie up.
What is it about superhero movies that come out by Fox? Even the good ones like this one, they just kind of seem dull, don't they? They don't seem as like out there as like other horror movies or superhero movies.
And that's another thing. Was like, what's going to happen if it ever happens? If Marvel Studio gets their hands back on X-Men, like what they can do with it.
It could be amazing.
I know.
But what's your all's favorite X-Men? How about that?
My favorite X-Men of all time is it's a tie. It's either Cyclops or Gambit. I've always loved both of them.
Those are good choices.
They're good
Those
choices.
Are very good
What do you?
choices.
I know who yours is.
That's Wolverine.
I thought
I
it
hate
was
to be
Rose.
so. I hate to be that. There's Jubilee.
She was in it for a second. By the way, we didn't mention them. Jubilee and Shadowcat. Remember that part where the girl runs to the door and he's like, he's like, what kind of school is this?
When I'm watching the movie, I get confused, dude, because I think for some reason it feels Anna Paquin should have been Jubilee. Like she would have been perfect for that.
Well, no, she's like too southern and trashy. Jubilee's like a mall girl. She's like, like the valley girl.
Yeah,
It's like, oh my god, I like the shop. Look at my fireworks. I have a yellow trench coat.
Comment below who was your favorite X-Woman or
You
X-Man.
didn't say who yours. What, Wolverine?
Let's move with Wolverine.
Okay.
I hate to be so cliche, but it's the truth.
It's cliche. Drinking a Batman cup's cliche.
That's a good point. It was $10.
I like it though.
But yeah, comment below, let us know, and click that subscribe button, and we're going to review all the X-Men movies, so we'll have another one here up in a few days or so. So I'm Mike, he's Jay, and it's okay. You're safe here.
Go lay by the bay. Eat some hay.
We watched a movie. Yeah. We watched a movie.